Previous lecture we had looked at the number system, the functions, and an important function called absolute value function. So in today's lecture we will start with looking at the concept of what is called a sequence, and then we will look at what is called the limit of a sequence, and a property of real number system, what we called as the Archimedean property, which I said we will state it as the time comes. So we will look at that, and then look at the concept of what is called a bounded sequence. So let us start by the concept of a sequence. Normally whenever you perform an experiment, you get an observation. Supposing you repeat the experiment again and again, you will get a second observation, third observation, and so on. So you can call them a sequence of observations, right? So any iterative process gives rise to a sequence of observations, right? So intuitively, let us look at an example which normally we do quite often in school itself. We want to find out what is the area of the unit circle. So what is the area of unit circle? Now what will be my next question? What should be my next question? Yes? What is pi? Now you can go on repeating endlessly. You will grow old, you will die, your son or daughter will take up, she will go on or he will go on repeating decimal expansion of pi, and nobody will be able to say fully what is the decimal expansion of pi. But how do you find these decimal expansions? Who computes it? How do you compute it? A computer does it. How does a computer do it? Yes? Okay. So let us try to solve this mystery, at least today. Finding the area of unit circle. I will show you something which helps you to formalize what is area of unit circle. We are trying to find the area of unit circle by a process, right? So let it repeat once again, then I will come back to. So we are doing an experiment and getting observations. Okay, so let us stop, otherwise it can go on. So what we are trying to do? To find the area of a unit circle, we know whenever you want to measure something, you have to have a unit of measurement. When you want to measure length, you fix yourself that this is my unit of measurement, call it 1 feet, 1 meter, 1 centimeter, whatever you like. And using that unit of measurement, you measure. How do you measure areas? That is, in line is length. When you go to next dimension, that plane, you want to measure areas. So what is the unit of measurement then? You have to fix a unit of measurement, how you are going to measure. So what is the unit of measurement? A unit square, you will fix it, right? Of unit length, unit breadth, call it unit square. Whatever is the region captured, you will call it that is my measurement unit. And what you will do, you will try to put it that many things on the object you want to measure, the region, and try to find out approximately what is the area. That is what you will do. And that is what we are trying to do in this experiment. Instead of taking square, once you have a notion of square, you can have the area of a triangle also. Right? For a right angle triangle, you can find the area because you can cut it. Right? Area of rectangle you can find out. Right? You have a formula for finding the area of a rectangle of a triangle. Half base into height. So let us take a triangle as measuring unit. Why? Because in this unit circle, what I will do is, I will first fit in a regular square. I will inscribe a square inside this circle. Then the area inside this square gives me an approximation, first approximation to the area of unit circle. Now I will increase the sides, I will make it a pentagon. When I make it a pentagon, more area will be covered by that pentagon inside the circle. That will give me a better approximation. And I'll go on increasing the sides of this regular polygon inscribed inside the unit circle, and that give me better and better approximations. So that gives me a sequence of observations, right, which eventually should give me what is called the area of unit circle. So that is what we'll do. So this experiment says, for example, I can make the sides 8, so A3, A4 and so on. That gives me a sequence of observations. We'll come back to this again. So let us formally define mathematically what is going to be a sequence for us. A sequence of elements of a set S is an ordered collection of numbers A1, A2, AN and so on. So pick up elements of a set, pick up one element, call it as the first element of the set, pick up another one, that is the second element, third element and so on. So you have picked up elements of a set, but you have called them as this is my first element, this is my second element, this is my third element. So this is an ordered collection of elements of that set. There is an order attached to each element that you are picking up. So that is A1 is the first one, A2 second one, AN nth one and so on. And this A1 is normally called the first term, A2 as the second term and so on, and AN as the nth term, the general term. So instead of every time writing A1, A2 dot 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 dot, we just devise a symbol, put this curly bracket, write the nth term AN, close the curly bracket, and n goes from bigger than or equal to 1. That means n is equal to 1, 2 and so on, natural numbers. So this is a symbol which is used to, okay. So this is a symbol which is used to write a sequence. So this symbol means it is an ordered collection understood as A1, A2, A3 and so on. Right? So for example, in the example of finding the area of unit circle, A4, we started with A4, right? That was the area of the square inscribed inside the circle. A5, pentagon, area of the pentagon and so on. Good. But keep in mind, there is a caution here that this symbol AN is not same as this set AN, n bigger than or equal to 1. Now the same brackets are used. There is a difference between these two things. This is just a symbol to indicate you are looking at ordered collection. But this is a set. And what is that set? Look at AN, n bigger than or equal to 1. So I will come to what is the difference. Does everybody understand the difference between the two? This one is not a set. This is just a symbol to indicate, while this is a set. And what is the difference between the two? We will soon see in an example probably. So let us look at a sequence AN, where AN is the population of, say, India in the year N. Right? Whatever the year could be, 2001, 2002 and so on. So that gives a sequence of observations. Let us look at this sequence, something mathematical. Minus 1 to the power n, n bigger than or equal to 1. So what are the elements of the sequence? First term is n equal to 1 minus 1. Second term is minus 1 to the power 2, that is plus 1, minus 1, plus 1, minus 1, plus 1. So the elements of the sequence are alternatively minus 1, plus 1, minus 1, plus 1. And if you look at this sequence as a set, it consists of only two elements, minus 1 and plus 1. So you see the difference between a sequence and a set. Okay. Let us look at this sequence, cos n pi. N is varying, n bigger than or equal to 1. What is the first term? Second term? Is it different from the second example? Is it different? It's same. So another way of writing the same sequence. So sequence can be written in a different way also, right, by a different formula. But what eventually matters is what is the first term, what is the second term, what is the third term, and so on. So this is the same as the second one. For example, you can have a sequence 1 over n. Right? First element is 1, second element is 1 by 2, third is 1 by 3, and so on. So various ways. Not only of numbers, you can have sequences of anything actually, because we had a sequence of elements coming from a set, a sequence of human beings, people sitting in this first row. The first person, second person, third person and so on. Right? It's a sequence of observations, that's all. But we will be concerned with only sequences of numbers. So now let us look at what we want to do. So given a sequence an, one is interested to know what happens to these ans when n becomes large. You have a sequence of observations. What do you want to do with these observations? You want to conclude something out of these observations, right? You want to make some conclusions. So in this case, A1, A2, A3, dot, 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 what do we want to conclude out of this? What do you want to observe? For example, in the area of the unit circle, you had A4, A5 and so on. You feel that eventually as n goes on becoming larger and larger, these numbers, ans, which are the areas of inscribed n-gons, should come closer to a particular value. That probably should be called as the area of unit circle, right? So one is interested in knowing what happens to the sequence an as n becomes large and large. So this is what we want to do. So do ans comes closer to a particular value, like we expect from the geometry picture for the circle, that these ans, the areas of the inscribed n-gons, should come closer to something which we should be able to call as area of unit circle. Does it happen for every sequence? When does it happen for a sequence? What should be the conditions? What should be the criteria? So this is what we are going to study. Okay, for example, in the case of areas of the n-gons, as I said, do they come closer to? Okay, to formalize this idea that they are coming closer to something, let me talk about an example. All of you have done in physics probably the example of pendulum swinging. Have you done in physics? Finding the value of that constant g probably, right? Okay. So we are not going to do that experiment again, but we are going to observe something from that pendulum. The pendulum is hanging and you take it away from the resting position and leave it. What happens? It starts oscillating. And after some time, that sum may be quite large, it comes back to the position of rest, right? So it starts swinging and comes to the position of rest. So what would you like to call that position of rest for the pendulum? That is kind of the eventual position of the swinging of the pendulum. Eventually it comes to rest. When it is moving, so you leave it, first time it comes here, so that is the first observation. So you are observing the left position of the pendulum only. First time comes again, second observation, third observation, and so on. So you are getting a sequence of observation, the position, how much it is away from the position of rest. Right? Every time it comes back, note down the position. So you are getting a sequence of observations. So your experiment tells you that the sequence of observation, namely how much it is away from the position of rest, that becomes smaller and smaller and eventually becomes 0. That is the position of rest for the pendulum. So you can say that the position of rest is the limiting position of, I am just using English only. Intuitively you would like to say that the position of rest is the limiting position of the pendulum, of a swinging pendulum, right? Now let us, instead of observing the pendulum motion fully, let us put some small window and look at the pendulum only inside that window. Okay? So put a window so that you are able to see the full swing of the pendulum. Yes, a window you have put. The pendulum is swinging. Okay? Now you make the pendulum, this window small. What can happen? You may not be able to see the full swing of the pendulum. It may go out of the window, right? If your window is small, it may go out. But doesn't matter. You leave the window as it is, wait for some time, probably 1 hour, 2 hours, and you will see the pendulum now again is fully visible inside the window, right? Now make the window much smaller, more smaller. Again, you may not be able to see the full swing of the pendulum. But you wait long enough, again the pendulum will come inside, right? So you want to say the position of rest is the limiting position for the pendulum. That limiting position has the property, howsoever small a window I give you around the limiting position, I am able to observe everything about the pendulum in that window. Clear to everybody? Okay. So now I am going to make mathematics out of it. Okay. But probably let me show you a small movie on this. Once again, that idea of pendulum. So this is pendulum swinging. Okay. So look at the movements of the pendulum allowed to swing freely. Let us put a small window around it and try to see it. So I have put a window around it. I am looking at the pendulum only inside the window. I am able to see it fully. Right? I make it smaller. Possibly it may go out because the window has become smaller. But I wait long enough, then pendulum will be visible inside again. Right? I make it smaller again same thing will happen. Right? It will be visible fully. So that is, now I want to make mathematics out of it. Okay? So that limiting position is a number. For given a sequence an, the limiting position is a number. Keeping in this example in mind, that number we will like to call as the limiting position or the limit of the sequence, provided I give a window around that limit. What is window around that limit now in numbers? I give you a neighborhood of that point, right? I give you a neighborhood, a interval, open interval around that limiting position L, such that what should happen? If I wait long enough, all the elements of the sequence must be visible inside that window. They should fall inside that window. That should be my definition of a limit. So let us make it formal. So given a sequence an of numbers, we say it is convergent. So the word is, it is convergent to L. The number is L. L is the limiting, coming from limit. So call the limit of the sequence, provided what happens, such that given any window around that L. So window means given a open interval around that point of some distance. So we write it as given any real number epsilon greater than 0. Look at L minus epsilon and L plus epsilon. So that is the window around that point. What should happen? All the elements of the sequence after some stage, if I wait long enough, after 2 hours, after 3 hours, after 20 hours, so after some stage n naught, all the elements ans are inside this window. So an is inside, so L minus epsilon is less than an less than L plus epsilon for all n bigger than or equal to n naught after that time. So here is given L, let me go back. Oh, it's going forward. Okay. So given L, and L will be the limit, provided given a window around it, given an interval around it, given a epsilon neighborhood of L, there is a stage. Okay, so there is a stage n naught, such that after that stage, for all n bigger than n naught, keep in mind, after that stage, everything should be inside that small neighborhood that we have prescribed. If that happens, then that number L is called the limit of the sequence. So keep in your mind the pendulum thing. If I make smaller, so if I make this interval probably a bit smaller, then that stage may be after that probably, right? I may have to wait longer probably. But given some interval around that L, there is a stage after which everything will be visible inside it. So mathematically we are saying, given epsilon bigger than 0, there is a stage, there is a number n naught, so that for all n bigger than n naught, an comes inside this, which is same as saying that absolute value of an minus L, right? If it is inside L minus epsilon, L plus epsilon, all the terms are inside after the stage n naught means what? The distance between an and L is less than epsilon for all n bigger than or equal to n naught. From that stage onwards, the distance of any element of the sequence is less than epsilon. It's clear to everybody? Yes, the definition of limit. So we just made mathematics out of that pendulum example. And in that case, we write limit LIM below n going to infinity, an equal to L. If such a thing happens, if such an L is possible, then we say that the sequence an is convergent to the limit L, and write symbolically as limit n going to infinity an is equal to L. Yes? So we'll look at some examples, probably that will make it more clear what is this concept. Okay? Oh. Okay. So geometrically, I think I have gone a bit too far. Sorry. So let us, yes, okay. So geometrically it means what? Let us just try to get a various ways of writing this sequence. What is the limit? So that you understand it. See, a sequence is the ordered collection of numbers, A1, A2, A3 and so on. You are saying from some stage onwards something is happening. So that stage onwards, if you look at the sequence, you can call that part as a tail of a sequence. Just for our understanding, given the sequence, from if you cut up first few terms of the sequence, the remaining part you can call as a tail of the sequence. Right? So geometrically it is saying that given any neighborhood, given any absolute neighborhood of the point L, howsoever small that neighborhood may be, there is a tail. Right? There is a n naught. That stage n naught may depend on what is epsilon, but there is a n naught, there is a tail, right, of the sequence, so that all the tail is inside that small neighborhood. Another way of understanding it, I am the limit of a sequence. I am standing on the number line. This is my epsilon. If I extend epsilon, then I am able to capture all but finitely many elements of the sequence inside my hands. Right? Not only anybody extending any small amount of hands outside, if I only do this much, then still I am able to capture in my hands everything except finite number of elements of the sequence. Right? Any extension, small or big, doesn't matter. There should be a tail inside that. Clear? Okay. I am just trying to give various ways of interpreting it so that you understand. If a sequence is not convergent, we say it is divergent. Okay? So there are only two possibilities, either a sequence converges or it diverges. Okay? It happens only probably in politics where something may or may not happen. Right? In mathematics, either true or false. Okay. Now I think it's the time to come to state what is called the Archimedean property of real numbers. This is not really a property only of real numbers, this is a property of rational numbers also, but let me state it and then explain. The property says, given any two real numbers x and y belonging to R, x bigger than 0, this is crucial, x bigger than 0, there exists some n, a natural number, say that nx is bigger than y. So just read it carefully, then I will explain it. For every pair of numbers x and y belonging to R, x is bigger than 0, then you can multiply that x by some natural number n, so nx will be still positive, right? And that will become bigger than y, whatever that y you have started with, doesn't matter where it is. It is in some sense essentially measuring on the line, you have got a point y, and you have got a unit of measurement x. You have got a unit of measurement x. If you measure x n times, then you will cross over y. You will go beyond y. X, 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x, and you will cross over y. For some n, there exists at least one n, and once you have crossed, you will remain crossed, right? You would have, for every n bigger than that also will happen. So it is just a property of the line, right? It says that on the line, if you have got two numbers x and y is any number, x is a unit of measurement. Unit of measurement should be positive anyway. That's why that x positive is coming. If you take that unit of measurement x positive n times, then you will go beyond. You can reach y and cross it over by measuring with a positive unit of measurement. Geometrically very clear, mathematically also very clear. Given x bigger than 0, nx will become bigger than y for any y for some x. Clear? Okay. So this we'll see how it affects how does it help us in understanding sequences now? So let us look at the first example. Look at the sequence 1 over n. So what is the first element? 1, second element 2, third element, second element is 1 by 2, third is 1 by 3, and so on, right? And if you try to plot them on the line, starts with 1, comes to half, 1 by 3, you see it is coming towards 0. It is coming towards 0. So your guess is that this sequence 1 over n converges to 0. You have made only a guess. That is how mathematics proceeds also. You have observations, you make a guess, you make a conjecture. Or any science, you put forward a theory and now try to support your theory. Try to give a proof. Yes, what you are claiming is true. It may not come out. Then you have to go back and revise your conjecture, your hypothesis. Right? So let us try to prove that this limit, it is convergent to L, which is equal to 0. So by definition, everything in mathematics has to go by what we are proposing. So our notion of convergent 1 over n is convergent to L means what? Given any epsilon, I should be able to find n naught, so that an minus L absolute value is less than epsilon for every n bigger than n naught. So let us write. So let us say epsilon is given to you. So what we want? We want to analyze an minus L. And we want to say that this is less than epsilon. But what is an minus L in our case? An is 1 over n. L is 0. So what is n minus L? That is 1 over n. And that is equal to 1 by n because that is positive. So what I want? I want 1 over n less than epsilon. Epsilon is given to me. I want 1 over n less than epsilon from some stage onwards. Is it possible? Yes? So we want, so now you see 1 over n less than epsilon means n is bigger than 1 over epsilon. Now think of Archimedean property. Your y is 1 over epsilon, unit of measurement is 1. So you can choose n, so that n into 1 is bigger than y, that is 1 over epsilon. Right? So by Archimedean property, I can choose n such that 1 over n will be bigger than, right? So n is bigger than 1 over epsilon. That is by Archimedean property. Yes? You see that? By Archimedean property I can ensure this. So let us write once again. So choose using Archimedean property a number n0 such that n0 times epsilon is bigger than 1. Either way you can write. Right? So this is same as n into epsilon bigger than 1. You can write it that way also. Then you are taking unit of measurement to be epsilon. You multiply epsilon by n0, you should cross over 1. Right? Either way you can write it. So by Archimedean property you can find a number n0 such that n0 into epsilon is bigger than 1. That is n0 is bigger than, right? n0 is bigger than 1 over epsilon. So what does it mean? So where are we now? So if n is bigger than n0, what happens to 1 over n? That is less than 1 over n0, and 1 over n0 is less than epsilon. So for all n bigger than n0, 1 over n is less than epsilon, and that is what you wanted. So using Archimedean property, by our definition, we can say 1 over n converges to 0. That happens because of Archimedean property. Consequence of Archimedean property. Is it clear to everybody that this limit is equal to 0 as per our definition? Okay? Right. Let us look at one more example to illustrate both the concepts together. Let us look at the sequence n, opposite of 1 over n. Opposite in the sense you understand, right? Sequence is 1, 2, 3 and so on. What do you think is happening to the sequence? If you look at the terms 1, 2, 3, it's just going away and away, right? It's moving farther and farther on the number line. It's not coming closer to any value, right? So guess that this limit does not exist. First step, this limit of the sequence n does not exist. How do I prove it now? Right? So given it does not, so to prove something exists, I know there is a L, then I can make it an minus L less than epsilon, right? Normally when you want to show something does not happen, what is the method of proof normally? Proof, you think of contradiction. So assume that what you want to prove is not true. We want to prove it is divergent. Assume it is convergent and get something absurd. Get a conclusion which is absurd. So that is called proof by contradiction. So assume this sequence converges to L. Right? Then what should happen? Then given epsilon, there should be a stage. So let us take epsilon equal to 1. Right? For every epsilon, I should be able to find a stage. Let us take epsilon equal to 1. I should be able to find a stage so that an minus L absolute value is less than epsilon, which is 1, from that stage onwards. So this should happen. And what is the meaning of this absolute value? That only means L minus 1 is less than n and less than L plus epsilon. For all n bigger than n naught. So what is it saying? That it's saying that all the numbers n after n naught are less than L plus 1. But that contradicts Archimedean property. Because what does Archimedean property says? Given the unit of measurement say 1, I should be able to find some n, say that n times 1 is bigger than anything. So I can make it bigger than L plus 1. But it says all n's are less than L plus 1. So this is contradicting Archimedean property. Yes? Somebody to whom it is not clear, I will repeat it again. Yes, somebody feels it is not clear? Please raise your hand. Good. So let me repeat. So what is not clear? Let us assume sequence converges to L. Right? If a sequence converges to L, then what should happen? If a sequence is converging to L, whatever the number L may be, it says the distance between A and L can be made as small as you want it. So that mathematically means given a number epsilon, the distance an minus L absolute value should be less than epsilon from some stage onwards. So let us take epsilon equal to 1. You can take anything you like, doesn't matter. Okay. Then after some stage, after n bigger than n naught, by definition, distance an minus L, which is same as an is n minus L should be less than 1. But what does that mean? That is precisely saying that L minus 1 is less than n is less than n, right? This is rewriting that absolute value in terms of inequality. That means all the natural numbers n after n naught are less than L plus 1. But that is not possible. Because Archimedean property says you take the unit of measurement as 1 unit, I can multiply by n, right, by suitable n, so I can cross it over anything I like. So given y, x equal to 1, n into x should be bigger than y. That means n is bigger than y. Right? So given any stage, there will be a natural number beyond that stage. That is what Archimedean property implies. In the Archimedean property, if you take x is equal to 1, then n times x, that is n, is bigger than y for any y. So given any stage y, any point y, there is n which is beyond y. So that is what is being contradicted here. Right? So that says this sequence is divergent. So 1 over n is convergent to 0 and the sequence n is. Now let us look at this sequence. The sequence is minus 1 to the power n. I am looking at very simple examples so that we understand the concept of convergence. So in this what is happening? The terms are becoming minus 1, 1, minus 1, 1, minus 1, 1. So obviously the sequence is not convergent because it doesn't come closer to any particular value. It fluctuates. Now I want to write that mathematically. So claim is the sequence is divergent. Right? I want to prove it. I want to write the proof. So divergent means intuitively what is happening. So let us assume, let me probably just write a proof here. So let us say that the sequence minus 1 to the power n, okay, that converges to this limit L. Let us say it is convergent. Assume, proof is by contradiction. Assume the sequence is convergent to a number L. So what are the possibilities? I know my sequence is becoming minus 1 and 1. Minus 1 and 1. Right? So either it will come closer to 1 or minus 1 possibly. So let us take the case 1. So case 1, L equal to minus 1. Let us take the first case. So this is equal to minus 1. Okay? Here is 0 and here is 1. Okay? Now if the sequence is converging to this point, then given any small interval around this point, all the elements must come inside. So let me take a small interval around this. Okay? Then the elements a n must be inside here for n bigger than some stage n naught. Right? That is convergence. Is converging to the point L equal to minus 1. So given any interval around that point, all the elements of the sequence must come inside except possibly the first few. Now if n is coming here, but I know at the next, when n is equal to odd, it will go there. All the elements cannot be inside here because they have to visit plus 1 also when n is even. For all n even, it says for all n bigger than n naught, they must be inside here. But that is not possible because when n is even and bigger than n naught, it will be at plus 1. So that is a contradiction. Clear to everybody? Yes? So L equal to minus 1 cannot be the limit. Shall I repeat it again? The proof? Assume the limit is minus 1. Then by definition, given an interval around this, all the elements must be inside this after some stage onwards. Right? That means this an must come inside this for n bigger than n naught. But if n is bigger than n naught and n is even, then it is here. It is not inside there because it is plus 1. The value is plus 1. Right? There are infinitely many terms of the sequence intuitively after n naught which are not inside, they are outside. So that is a contradiction. That all must be inside. Okay? So this cannot be the limit. Similarly, you can say plus 1 cannot be the limit because then you can take an interval like this. Or any L cannot be the limit because you can take an interval and it is not, never, no term is inside at all. Because it's plus minus or minus 1 only. Clear? So this proof I want to write now. I have intuitively worked out the proof. I want to write this proof now, mathematically. How will I write it? So let me write the proof. So we expect it to be divergent. So let us prove this. So suppose n converges to 1, to L which is equal to minus 1. So I have drawn the picture here also. So let us say given epsilon. So there I drew in the picture, I did not say what is epsilon. The basic idea was that L minus epsilon and L plus epsilon should be away from 1. So distance should be away from 1. So you can always choose. Say for example take epsilon equal to half. Then what will be the interval around minus 1 of length epsilon? Minus 3 by 2 to minus 1 by 2. So convergence says all the elements must be inside this after some stage. Not there. So let us write that proof. So it says it must be true that minus 3 by 2 is less than an is less than minus 1, which is minus 1 by 2. Right? So all the ans must be inside minus 3 by 2 to minus half for all n bigger than n naught. And that is a contradiction because for all even terms the value is plus 1, which will be outside. So that is the proof. That is how you will write your. So you think mathematically, have a sketch and then write it. Okay? Yes?
If we take epsilon to be 2 or greater,
yes? Then they will be inside. Sure.
terms will come inside.
Yes, they will come inside. Sure. But yes. So now you should understand the definition. What is the definition of saying an converges to L? It says for any epsilon. You are saying only for one it is happening. Right? In any, if I extend this much, probably I can capture everything. But if I do this much only, I may not be able to capture everything. So for every epsilon, howsoever small, normally one adds a caution. Given epsilon bigger than 0, howsoever small. But there is no need to write howsoever small. That should be understood. When it's written for every epsilon, if small and big, all are taken care of. Right? So this is at my choice. When I say something is convergent, then I can choose any epsilon I like. But if I want to prove something is convergent, then I have to prove it for every. Clear? Okay. Right. So this sequence is not convergent. Yep.
What if you don't feel if it's converging or diverging?
You don't feel.
I mean, suppose the sequence is
Then you are stuck. That's all. You have to have in mathematics or anything, you have to feel what is true intuitively by some reason or the other. Now, by hit and trial, you try to prove it is convergent. Probably you will be stuck for 2 days, 3 days, 5 days. Right? Then you will realize probably it is not convergent, it is divergent. So let us see. Probably I can prove it is not convergent. Right? That's how theories are discovered. Nothing comes out of a hat. Hit and trial. Thinking. But thinking in a proper way. We'll give you more results, more theorems which help you to decide when something is convergent or not. But the concept of what is convergent, that should be clear first of all. Right? Methods, tools which help you to decide when something is convergent or not, there are many. We'll come slowly to them. Okay? Right. But this is basic. You have to somehow have a feeling whether this is convergent or not. Okay? Some way. Okay. Let us just say that the sequence n was not convergent, and also the sequence -1 to the power n was not convergent. Both are not convergent. But they were not convergent or they were divergent for different reasons. See, -1 over n was not divergent because it is fluctuating. Right? Whereas the sequence n was not convergent because it goes away and away. In some sense, it is unbounded because it is going away and away. So we want to make that precise now. So let us define what is called, one more example. I think probably. Let us just quickly look at n over n plus 1. What do you feel? Another way of guessing why the sequence will converge or not. By graph, there is no graph available. So he says convergent. He must have had some reason. What do you feel? Quickly, there is no time to. Convergent to what value? I know. Okay. Let us just see why you feel it is convergent. So let us just write it this way. See how this is how you will probably try to guess. Write this as 1 minus 1 over n plus 1. Right? Now from here at least you can guess. Because that part is becoming smaller and smaller, probably it should go to 1. So this is, as you do more and more experiments, more trials, you will get used to it. Okay? So one proves that it actually goes to 1. Again, by method of proof is same. You guess it converges to 1, and now prove it. An minus 1, you have to make it small. So an minus 1, that is 1 over n plus 1, that can be made less than epsilon by Archimedean property again. Okay? So that example you can read in the notes. Let me not spend time on that. So this is, okay, there are 2-3 minutes. Now, before stopping today, let me just ask a question. Do you think a sequence can have more than one limit? We said for a sequence an limit is L, provided all the elements come closer to that value L, as close as you want it. Suppose there are two different limits possible, here and here. Then the element should be close here, they should also be close here. But how is that possible? Same thing cannot be here as well as there. Yes? Proof is clear? Let us write it, this proof. How will you write this proof? Okay? The answer is no. So here is the answer. Suppose there are two limits possible, L and L prime. An converges to L means what? In some interval around it, whatever interval I give you, all the elements must come inside it except finitely many. So let us write that. So given epsilon, I'll tell you why I am finding this with this property. Same thing, given an interval around this, everything must be inside it. But it also converges to L prime, so n must be there also. And if these two intervals are disjoint, then contradiction, n cannot be here as well as there. Same number cannot be less than the same number. That is a contradiction. So that's why I said in the beginning, you make a choice that L plus this point, L plus epsilon is smaller than L minus epsilon. So that you have disjoint intervals. Because it happens for every L, for every epsilon, so you can make that choice. Right? So that says, so contradiction and the limit has to be unique. So I think probably this is a time to stop. We missed 5 minutes today because of the previous lecture, but we'll try to cover it up in the next one. So what we are trying to do today is look at the notion of a sequence of numbers, right? Sequence is the ordered collection of numbers, okay? Then saying it converges to something means the distance becomes small. Given any neighborhood, everything comes inside, right? And the limit is unique.